As visual communicators, our number one job is to make sure the viewer is looking at what we want them to look at. And one of the ways to do that is getting used to this really important concept called figure ground, which is a pretty simple concept if you really think about it, but really powerful as well. Now, figure ground, you may already know this to some degree, is basically a way to clearly distinguish between what or who your main subject is or area of interest, and the background or whatever else is in the frame. Okay, so what is figure and what is ground? Well, figure is whatever is visually dominant in the frame. This is where we want the viewer's eye to be most drawn to at first. The ground, on the other hand, is the surrounding areas that our figure is in, or we can say that our figure is placed upon. All right, let's take a look at a few examples. All right, so what is the figure and what is the ground here? The figure are these bottles, and the ground is both the platform and the curtains in the background. That was pretty straightforward. Okay, how about this example? Even though the background is brighter in color and the subject is darker, the bottles are still the figure and the ground is the surrounding areas. Okay, how about this example? With the proper context, you can know for certain that the bottle is still the figure and the ground is, well, the curtain this time. But as a standalone image, you may say that this oval shape here is the figure and the yellow space now is the ground. That could very well be valid. Now, you most likely aren't creating optical illusions for a living, but in the previous examples, there was something that helped us in defining what the figure and what the ground was. This is where our next concept that helps us focus our viewers' attention on subjects that we capture and create come in, and that's area of greatest contrast. The area of greatest contrast is the area in the frame that has, well, the greatest contrast, whether that's in color or in value. And it's been proven over and over again that our eyes are typically attracted to areas in the frame that has the highest contrast. From the previous examples, why do you think it was easy to distinguish between the figure and the ground? It's because of this area right here that has the greatest contrast. The contrast between the color of the bottle and the background color is what guides our eye here the most. The same goes for the reverse. Even though I switched up the colors, the greatest area of contrast is still right here. Now, you may be wondering at this point if color difference between the bottles have anything to do with creating contrast. If so, then you're right. And this brings us to our next and final way that I think helps us focus our viewers' attention on the subjects we capture or create, and that's value. Value is simply the brightness of a color. Whatever color you're looking at has a brightness spectrum, also known as its value. And in short, whatever has the highest value in the frame will be the brightest part of the frame. Whatever has the brightest part of the frame will be the greatest area of contrast, and where the area of greatest contrast is will be our figure, or visually dominant area of the frame. You see how all of this connects together? So to close this video out, let's take a look at an example that demonstrates the power of strategically placing different values in your frame. Let's say I wanted to create an image for this canister. Here it is. Now, it may look fine, but if you linger on it a bit more, you may notice something is off about it. The canister doesn't quite stand out as much as it could. Why is that? This is because the colors in the frame have roughly the same values as one another. And if I turn this image to black and white, you can see this better. Notice how on average, the entire frame has a similar brightness level or value. Therefore, there's no real contrast between our subject and the surrounding areas. There's no separation between figure and ground. To create that contrast, there are many ways to do that, but in this case, we can simply lower the values of the surrounding areas, and once we do that, the canister ends up standing out just a little bit more. So you see how composition can be viewed as just interacting with different ways to guide your eye through the frame. Hope you found this helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.